Hello, Samson here. So in today's book review, I've been reading quite a series of books, business related mostly, and personal development books. Today being the last day of the month and the last day, I think, of the first half of the year, I had read Jim Collins' book titled Good to Great. For corporate leaders, it's a book that is a must read. For aspiring entrepreneurs, it's a book that's a must read as well. And for people who are into personal development, it's a book that you really need to check out. So the book is centered around the fact that it's titled itself Good to Great. What it brings forth is the fact that good becomes the enemy of great, and the world is not so much progressing at the pace where it is supposed to be, because when we do good things, we are limited to doing great things. So diving right into the chapters of the book, in the first chapter, what Jim Collins brings forth is the fact that good becomes the enemy of great. So we look at it from the introduction itself, where when you do something that is good, it limits you from doing something that is great. So there is a quote that I found interesting, that is, unsatisfied curiosity makes death something that is a very hard thing to become. You might necessarily want to think about what the quote says. So going back a bit to the introduction and in chapter 1, where he's laying the foundation of the book. So they went through like about 4 or 5 phases where when they were doing research. So the first phase of the underrated curiosity that is being talked about from the quote is the search. So they had this search that they had conducted for them to come up with, for Jim and the team to come up with a book. And the second phase was, it was compared to what? So the question, like, it is compared to what is a phase that they had gone through. The third phase is the inside black box, where they were looking at that. And then the last phase was the chaos to concept. So where there is chaos and then it practically goes to a concept. What I find fascinating about the layout of the book and the chapters is the fact that at every end of every chapter, what Jim Collins actually brings about is the fact that there were some new discoveries which are found just after the key points, and then they found something which was new in the book. In chapter 2, Jim Collins centers his discussion around the level 5 leadership. So what level 5 leadership is actually the capable individual, a capable individual who's a leader. So let me just go through the 5 levels of leadership which he employs. So the first one is the executive, and then the second one is the effective leader. The third one is the competent manager. The fourth one is a contributing team member, and then the level 5 leader is the capable individual. So in any organization, if your organization is to scale or do anything that is reasonably productive, what is needed practically is the level 5 leadership, where we've got a capable individual. In chapter 3, we are discussing, you look at first who, then what. So most of the times in any organization that is doing so well in the world, what we definitely see from them is the fact that they've got a team that drives everything for them to be able to function and move at a pace where they're supposed to move. There is a saying that says, if you've got the right people on the bus, it's easier for you to change direction on the bus. So when you get the right team, the right who, and then the what is going to be easier to do, and then the how comes in later on. In chapter 4, we are discussing the fact that you're confronting the brutal facts. So you need never to lose faith in this one. So facts are actually better than dreams. So it's that section of the book that talks about facts being better than dreams. So confronting the brutal facts, you look at where you are and you look at where you want to be. You look at what you need to do in order to get to where you want to go. So there is a climate of truth that is supposed to be heard, which is supposed to be created. That is in the the pursuit to confronting the brutal facts. So there are like 4 basic practices to employ. The first one is you need to lead with questions. Instead of just giving your opinions, lead with questions and then get responses from people. The second one is you engage in dialogue and debate and you look at concepts as well. And then the third one is you need to conduct autopsies. And then the fourth one is you need to be able to build red flag mechanisms. If something is not working, then it's supposed to give you a red flag. In chapter 5, what Collins is discussing is the hedgehog concept. So simplicity within the 3 circles. So what I found so fascinating about the book, especially in chapter 5, is the hedgehog concept. So there is a difference between foxes and hedgehogs in that foxes will be able to pursue like everything that they need to, but a hedgehog is an animal that is going to like pursue something very specific until it devours the same thing. So in the hedgehog concept, we're looking at the fact that you just focus on one thing that you need to do until you get it done. So the 3 circles we're discussing, looking at the hedgehog concept, is where your passion lies, which is the third one. And then the second one is you look at where or what your economic engine is. You look at your resources and everything. And then the first one is you need to be able to look into what you are doing best. So those are the 3 circles that we're looking at, and look at the hedgehog concept. In chapter 6, we are discussing a culture of discipline. A lot of startups and organizations fail simply because in their organization, the culture of discipline is what was lacking. So I do not need to add a lot of emphasis on the fact that there is this discipline that is needed, because there is quite a vast spectrum of what disciplines are about. So you need to develop all those in order for your organization to be able to thrive. And then in chapter 7, we're discussing technology accelerators. So technology in itself is an accelerator, as a tool practically that can be used in our organizations and in anything that we are doing in order for us to be able to achieve maybe the results that we need, and all that. It is just a driving force, and it is not something that should be like at the center, regardless of it playing like a very important role. So attending one of the summits, I think by a presentation given by Stafford Massey, in his presentation discussing what technology is doing to the world right now, we came to realize that we are actually going back to humanity. Like every tech that we are employing in the world is something that is taking us back literally to humanity. So technology is a tool that is supposed to help us in the acceleration of everything that we need in order to be able to develop. In chapter 8, we're discussing the flywheel and the down loop. So when we talk about the flywheel, we're discussing the momentum that we need to build in order for us to get the results that we need. So there is everything that we are doing as a startup, or everything that we are doing in life that we are going through, is basically linked to this flywheel that is there. So there is a quote that says, there is no single heave, no matter how large, reflects a small fraction of the entire cumulative effect upon the flywheel. So everything that we do matters in the actual sense. And then when we discuss the down loop here in the book, you're going to find that instead of fighting concepts and whatnot, what you need to practically do is going back to the 4 practices that we discussed. You need to question and all that, and that is how it operates. And then in the last chapter of the book, From Good to Great, something that is built to last. So there is something that I found so intriguing, and it is the fact that it's easy to become great, but it's not very easy to maintain the greatness. So you need to go back to the basics, like at all times. And then I'm going to read out what I found, what I practically learned from the book. So greatness comes from the search of meaning, or rather meaningful works. That is where greatness stems from. So your greatness might not be in the corporate world, might not be in the business world. Your greatness is supposed to be found looking at the 3 circles that we looked at. So this is practically what Jim Collins discusses in Good to Great. You can be great when good ceases to be an enemy of your greatness. So this was Good to Great by Jim Collins. Till we meet in the next segment, I am checking out.